Yeah. As you see, I have with me General Harimohan Iyer, and like I told you earlier, he's been the Chief of Staff of Northern Command, and he's been the Chief of Staff of Northern Command when Op Snow Leopard was taking place. So he's got absolute hands-on experience of the whole affair, or rather, when I say whole affair, of fighting. He's very conversant with issues in Kashmir. He's also very conversant with what's happening across Pakistan. And I couldn't have had a better person to talk today about aims, objectives, and implications of conflict with our nuclear beggar. Hari, at the outset, welcome, and it's a pleasure
Thank you,
to
sir.
have you back on Gunner Shot.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Oh, welcome. And before he starts and I hand over the floor to him, I'd like to put a few things across. We all know that the Pahalgam incident happened. Everyone in the country is upset with the whole story. Everyone wants some kind of revenge against Pakistan. Everyone wants to sort out Pakistan. And that anger is palpable right from the person, right from the Prime Minister to the last man on India. And our Prime Minister has very clearly said, I will pursue these people to the end of the earth. Right? A lot of things on. There's war, in the air. Everyone wants to go to war and bash Pakistan. But the question is, why do you want to do that? How do you want to do that? And what do you get out of it? That's very important. In in the armed forces, the first thing I remember we were taught was selection and maintenance of aim. In any operation, anything you do in the armed forces, they say, आपका मुद्दा क्या है, right? आप क्या करना चाहते हो, क्या हासिल करना चाहते हो? What do you, and then based on your aim, you work out what you can do. And based on your aim, you work out what resources you want. Based on your aim, you say, okay, this is it. And this aim is just not based on what you can do, it is also based on what the enemy can do. So you have to do a mix and match to get to what your aim is. If your aim is not clear, the war won't go well. The prime example for the past 3 years, Mr. Putin is hanging around Ukraine. He went with the aim for which his military was not prepared. He couldn't take Kiev. Thereafter, he's done something. He doesn't know what his aim is. I don't know what his aim is. One day it is bombing Kiev, the other day he wants to take over Ukraine, the third day he doesn't want NATO, fourth day he doesn't want. So as a result, his armed forces have not been able to get what beyond. It's in a stalemate. That's the problem. If you get into a war without a clear aim and the objectives of that war, you will not know when to finish that war. I go back to 99 when we were executing Op Vijay. A question was asked to Mr. Vajpayee, who was then the Prime Minister. Says, why don't you go to war with Pakistan? I still remember very clearly he said, मैं लड़ाई शुरू तो कर दूंगा, उसको खत्म कैसे करना है, ठीक है? So, more than starting a war, it is termination of the war which is more important. And that a war terminates when your aim and objectives of that war are achieved or not achieved. It can't be happening. That, oh, no, no, I'll go with this aim, and in between, I'll change my aim and I'll do something else. Then we'll look like jokers. And depending on what your aim is, you'll get your ways and means to that end. You have to tailor everything. And that is why our Prime Minister or Defense Minister or chiefs, defense planners are taking time. At the end of this, it's no guarantee that they'll take India to war. I said it depends on what your war aim is, or the conflict aim is. I'm not even talking about war. That's why I said conflict with a nuclear beggar, right? So this is the background under which, and I thought I must speak to you because a lot of people have said, "Oh, this army chap doesn't want to go to war. He's scared of Pakistanis. This, that, and the other." It appears as if we can just go and bash a Pakistani head and come out, right? I think that's the most foolish thing we can do. I've given a very long introduction. Now I request General Harimohan, please take over and you define the way, what could be a name, I mean, the way you want to do it. All yours. Over to you, Hari.
Thank you, sir. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, good evening to all of the viewers of Gunner Shot. It's a privilege to be here once again. And the irony is, just about 3 weeks back, I was on it, and the topic was, will Pakistan will destroy itself? And it's just taken 3 weeks for it to step on the minefield. And possibly now it's standing with the foot on the mine, not knowing whether to go forward or back. That's how fast things move. A couple of weeks back, one was thinking Pakistan is no longer an issue and we should start looking at China. And 2 weeks later, we are looking whole hog at Pakistan. So that is how things move in, I guess, geopolitics and, of course, also in defense. So before I start, I must bring out a very, I think General Shankar brought it out in some manner and I will try to expand it. As far as I look at it, since 1971, rather I'll say 16th of December 1971, when we signed the surrender statement in Dhaka, India and Pakistan have been at war in the grey zone. Now, why do I use this word grey zone? I use this word grey zone because Pakistan has never accepted the defeat in Bangladesh. And ever since that day till date, their only motive is to try and embarrass the Indian armed forces in general and India in particular, in some way, whatever possible, to avenge that humiliation they faced on 16 December 1971. So this is something we all should be aware of. So when you look at the events that took place there onwards, whether it was the exercise brass tacks, the kind of mobilization that happened at that time, then we had a large amount of incursions taking place in Kashmir, which resulted in subsequent sort of genocide and population shift out of Kashmir. They created a situation in Punjab in the 80s. They created a situation in Kashmir in the 90s. They went across the LOC and created a kind of a scenario in late 90s, and we had to go into kind of a limited conflict in Op Vijay, which General Shankar brought about. They continue to ferment terror in India, whether it was the Parliament attack of 2002, the Mumbai bomb blasts in Delhi, the 26/11 attacks, Uri, Pulwama. If you look at it, every 2 to 3 years, they have been playing one major event after the other. And the whole aim is to somehow create a scenario where they can possibly, in their own minds, get one better than Indian Army to what happened to them in the month of December 1971. I had the experience of, serving with some Pakistani officers when I was in the UN mission. And then after putting about 4 or 5 tots of alcohol into them, this inert thing inside them just comes out. They cannot forget that humiliation. So when I look at it, Pahalgam is another set of the same routine event which Pakistan has stepped onto it. Unfortunately, this time possibly he has possibly angered the situation a little too bad. And I can qualify it by saying that when I analyze the current one with maybe let's say what happened in 2611. In 2611, the people who came across, they came with very specific targets, they came with a very specific mission, and they were being controlled by a control headquarters sitting in Karachi. This time, to best of my knowledge, I guess they have played a game of Chinese whisper. Something has been communicated which gets corrupted and it transpired into something else, and that's what has happened. And what has happened is something that cannot be forgiven because it has translated itself into a much larger game of inter-religious rivalry within India. So therefore, there is a need to bring the offenders to book, as the Prime Minister says, search them out, whether they are the people who executed it or the people who ordered it. And that is why the game becomes much larger. So once again, I say we are still in the gray zone. When I say gray zone, the scope starts from limited proxy war and goes up to a limited conflict. So the whole area compasses under the gray zone, and we are still within it. Whether we will stay within it in the coming months or get into a conflict, much like what General Shankar mentioned in Russia. In the Russian context, sir, in my mind, I feel they thought they'll walk over Crimea the way they did, walk over Ukraine the way they did 10 years ago. Possibly they miscalculated the
Yeah,
preparedness.
I am completely with you. That's why I said
So I will
aim,
give.
aim, objectives, and your own capabilities, enemy capabilities.
They miscalculated the Ukrainian capability and possibly thought that they will achieve what they wanted to achieve in a short, quick war, which didn't happen. I will take another example, and I feel that needs to be more closely studied by us. What Israel did post October 23. Again, Israel felt that possibly going full on offensive on Gaza, they'll be able to completely take out Hamas. 2 years now, they are still struggling to, like what General Shankar said, they didn't have an end aim in mind. They don't know how to terminate this particular conflict. If they close battle now, they come out possibly not victorious as they set out to be. And possibly they will not be able to claim that they have been able to achieve their aim when they started this particular campaign. So these are two very clear markers for the Indian government and the Indian Defence Forces to keep it in mind, that we ensure that whatever we do, we have the end state very clearly demarcated. We have understanding of what all can happen in terms of escalation of this particular issue, and we should know where there is a get out of the conflict card. We should
Yeah,
know the exit
exit
routes at
point.
various levels. We
Yeah,
just
I want to
cannot get
give one. Hari, I just want to give one more example, and this is a classic. And the classic is of USA and Afghanistan. They went into Afghanistan, they threw out the Taliban, spent 20 years there, and only to return the power to Taliban.
So again, they neither destroyed them nor they could change the governance. So in that count, I guess when the Prime Minister apparently has said that he has given the defense forces a free hand, that's what the media has been going tom-tomming about since evening today. But I'm sure when the Prime Minister has given them, I'm sure he must have given them a very clear demarcation of what is the kind of scope in which you have to execute their tasks. It cannot be a one-liner saying that do whatever you want to do. So it will not be like that. In a 90-minute meeting, I'm sure large amount of things would have been discussed. So I would like to first, before I get on to the aim, just like to recollect what all has happened since of 23rd of April. In within 24 hours, one can make out that the complete CNP of the country has been put into place. And why do I say that? The first action we took was in the diplomatic front. We downsized Pakistani embassy in our High Commission in India. We withdrew our defense advisors. So when I look at a 30-man embassy, whether it's the Indian High Commission in Pakistan or vice versa, it indicates that these are countries which are of least value to each other. So if I look at the Pakistani embassy, possibly it will not have any importance as far as the Indian government is concerned when it compares to, say, a country like Burkina Faso or something, which possibly may be also maintaining a similar kind of strength in their High Commission. I would also recommend to the government that it's high time you remove them from Chanakyapuri and send them out somewhere to Dwarka or the outskirts of Delhi, so that they become totally irrelevant. But then I guess those are issues we may look at it later. So that is one very big thing we did. We downsized it to a level that now it has become an irrelevant High Commission. It's a symbolic High Commission at both places. And this is known to the world that today our diplomatic ties are possibly at our nadir. It wasn't as bad, I guess, even in the 1971 conflict. Then we have gone across, and imagine the day when this thing happened, our Prime Minister was in Saudi Arabia. He was a state guest in Saudi Arabia, given a royal welcome in Saudi Arabia. And at that time, when something of this nature happens and the Prime Minister cuts short his visit and comes back, it sends a very, very strong message to the Arab world. And the Arab world has stood by us. So the very fact that the Arab world has not come out in support of Pakistan is a big diplomatic win for India. The Americans on expected lines have given us a full-handed support as far as the current event is concerned. I am looking at only one country which is blowing cold, which is China, and on expected lines. I believe Turkey is oscillating because he knows that he's going to get isolated if he starts to side with Pakistan. So he is like, one day he says he's with him, one day he says he's not with him. He wants to play both sides. So by and large, when I look at the diplomatic world today, by and large, India has got more support than Pakistan. Pakistan, if I look at it, stands isolated. And by and large, this so-called democratic government which is in place, its value is showing in the world order. So today, by and large, no country is giving it the kind of importance that any nation with 75 years of existence should have. And supposedly a nuclear power and world big power as far as the defense is concerned, Pakistan does not have that kind of standing in the world today. What I look at it now, since the aim has been, General Shankar wants us to look at the aim also. If I was to look at the aim of the diplomatic side, the next step would be to isolate him from all the relevant organizations in the world. Last time China wanted to get Pakistan into the BRICS, India stood firmly and said no, didn't allow it. I'm sure very soon India will either like to throw them out of the SCO, possibly throw them out of other organizations that they are part of. They'll be left with being a part of the Islamic Union only and become less and less and less relevant as it is they are going around. So in the diplomatic point of view, I guess by and large we are on the right track. We have hit the right kind of notes at the right kind of time. And I'm sure there are more to come. I'm sure our External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, he's a maverick in his own mind and he's got a lot of things lined up in due course of time. And he'll unravel them as things come out. So as far as the D of the dime is concerned, I think in the last 7 days we have covered a lot of ground.
No, let me tell you one point. Now you mentioned Dr. Jaishankar. As of today, all the foreign ministers of BRICS are sitting in China. Less Dr. Jaishankar. He's not sent anyone there. Because China gave a message of one kind, he's just not gone. And that itself is a big message to China. One of the founder members of BRICS and one of the most important members of BRICS after China is not there. That's a big message in line with
So,
what you're saying.
so as somebody told me, the vowel actually makes a word. So if the I goes out of bricks, it becomes an irrelevant
Yeah,
organization. It's I which is holding on to bricks together. So,
yeah,
anyways, that is something which I am seeing. It's not that it's going to be abandoned. I'm sure we are going to create new ways to isolate Pakistan and its allies in the world order, and try and win this battle in the diplomatic world. Where I find us a little wanting is in the I domain, the info domain. And that is one place where I find DG ISPR with his resources kind of, he's been able to put together a large amount of, coordinated kind of a picture, which unfortunately in India, possibly a democratic process as it is, and not having a kind of a coordinated agency to do information warfare. Um, I guess we can do better there. We need to coordinate more, and we need to be able to, counter the IW which Pakistan is throwing at us. And that has a relevance in the diplomatic arena also, because these issues have a connect either in the diplomatic or in the economic affairs. And that is where I guess there needs to be a little more coordinated effort, possibly at a ministry level. It's one of the ministries need to take a lead and start coordinating these issues. And I'm sure people must be abreast of it, and maybe the national security advisor and his gang of people, I'm sure, must be at it. I will skip military and go on to economic, and then we can discuss the military
yeah, yeah,
action,
yeah.
which is the major thing. The best thing that happened here is the Indus Water Treaty getting put on abeyance. I am using the word abeyance with a lot of deliberation, because not many understood what the value of this word abeyance is. When I say abeyance, I am not getting out of the treaty, yet I am not mandated to follow the treaty. I can toggle around with the treaty with any way and say I'll come back at a suitable piece of time whenever I feel I should be. I'm neither suspending it nor am I walking out of it. And what it gives us is the kind of leeway. And it was evident a couple of days back when Chenab was made dry and Jhelum was made to flood. Now imagine a huge volume of water suddenly coming into a reservoir. It will bring a huge amount of silt along with it. And a pondage which is already loaded with silt, which needs to be desilted, will get more amount of silt and its value will go down. And they will not be able to hold this water because it's overflowing, so they'll release it downstream. And it will go to those areas which don't need that water at this current sea. And when they need this water, they will again. This is a kind of a tap we have, when to open and when to close. And nobody can question you, because Pakistan thankfully said we are going out of all bilateral treaties, including the Shimla Agreement. So they are nowhere bound to raise it anywhere other than an international forum, where we have our own time to respond to these things by when huge amount of damages can happen. Now, if you look at Chenab is the river which actually is supposed to provide water to Pakistan in the current time. We have dried it up, which means that the Kharif crop, which is going to go on ground in another 10 days' time, it will be drained out of water. By the time they are able to bring water and lay it, we possibly will release so much of water that it will get flooded. So this kind of a leeway we have to destroy him economically, because Pakistan is an agro-based economy. And if Punjab's economy is destroyed, Pakistan, as it is head deep in debts, it will vanish economically. It will be a destroyed country. And I guess that is somebody has applied his mind, and I believe this work was on for last 5 years. Since the Balakot strike, people were working on how to put the Indus Water Treaty to our advantage, and by and large, we have been able to do it. The second thing Pakistan is going to be hugely stressed with is oil or energy. As it is, I believe most of Punjab today is facing 20 to 22 hours of power cuts in this heat, because they don't have energy, they don't have coal, they don't have oil. All their thermal plants are today running below their capacity levels. It's going to be worse because the hydroelectric power which was supposed to come to them will not come to them. So over a period of next 5 to 6 months, you'll find them strained for power, strained for oil, strained for agriculture. As it is, a doomed economy is going to get destroyed. So we are doing, I guess, in a very calibrated manner as far as the economy part of the CNP is concerned. And I guess we will leverage it to add issues like blocking their routes of trade, making sure that certain trading partners put a value to trade to Pakistan. And the beauty of the whole thing is of two things which Pakistan took, and I guess a laughable thing. They stopped trade with India, least realizing that the same commodities, if they have to buy from anywhere else, is going to cost them a fortune, and they cannot live without those commodities. As it is, this trade was happening indirectly and not going through the checkpoint, and they were going through Middle East kind of routes. So now they are in a system when they are going to struggle for money. They are going to
Yeah,
be drained
just
out of.
1 minute, Hari. I want to show. This is the India's export to Pakistan. Look at the first thing. The first thing is what? Oils. भैया उनका तेल हमारे से जाता है. Okay. Mineral oils, lubes, distillation products are more than 50% of our export to Pakistan. So उनका तेल तो हमारे हाथ में है. And if the trade is suspended, just imagine what General Harimohan is saying. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that out.
Even the third point, sir, pharmaceutical is something they are going to be strained on
Yeah,
because
they
they don't
don't
produce
have.
medicine. They don't
We
produce
don't.
drugs. And if they don't buy it from India, they'll spend huge amount of money getting the drugs. Today, they're going to be in trouble because somebody called Asim Munir is calling shots, not realizing because that guy, his so-called intellect is only limited to the way he spoke the other day. He's not evaluated, and like General Shankar brought out earlier, he is not understood most of the repercussions of events that happen post his speech. It's easy to create a kind of aura in an audience, but by doing so, you may disbalance so many other things. So when I look at dime, as I said, diplomatically we are doing the right things in the right way. Economically, we are doing the right things the right way. I hope our people start getting hold of the information part and start calibrating that also to suit the other three uh, parts of the power structure, so that we are able to put a comprehensive national power in a manner that which we want to achieve our end results. See, military will be able to achieve its results only when the rest of the things have been lined up correctly. So that needs to be understood by a large number of people. Now we come down to the military aspect. And I
Hey,
was talking to.
wait. 1 minute, 1 minute. Before we get on to the military aspect, I'd like you to spend a couple of minutes to dwell. Look, when you put things in place and everything is there, you shouldn't start the military aspect, you should do it at your time, place of choosing.
Yes,
Yeah, that's important. Usko
and
pehle taka do.
that's what
Yeah,
I was
come,
coming
please,
to.
go ahead. Yeah.
So there are more things to economy, sir. I was waiting.
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I want people to
After
understand.
after
You
after
see, the thing is,
years after
the thing
years and
is,
years of effort, last year Pakistan managed to get themselves out of the FATF list. They just managed to get out of the grey list somewhere, if I'm not wrong, in the month of August or September of last year. And I see them getting back into the grey list very soon, and possibly even into the dark grey and the blacklist after this. Because this time the Indian government in its complete forum is not going to stop midway. So that is another gauntlet which is hanging on top of Pakistan. They are riddled with loan. I was seeing somebody, they say Pakistan budget is based on what is the loans to be repaid and where are we going to get the loans for the next installment. So they are not able to execute any of their projects because they are only repaying loans. So economically they are dreaded, and we have to ensure that they are fully grounded desperate, and that is the time our military should hit and achieve its aim. So that is something which General Shankar also mentioned. We have to thakaw them. We have to ensure that that guy is, he doesn't have anything to throw back at you. All his punches are all gone. Another very interesting thing, sir, we saw Uri, and then we saw the surgical strikes which went in. But the Pakistani political forum didn't come out with the nuclear rhetoric the next day. It didn't come. It was only somewhere later when they said, if you escalate, you must understand we are nuclear powers. It was a very rhetoric which was kept at a very, very low level. When Balakot airstrikes happened and we happened to hit their mainland, there was some murmur which said that, POK is still accepted, but you come to mainland next time, you're, crossing the threshold. Here, I don't think even the Indian government had made a statement. The Prime Minister had just come back from Saudi Arabia, and minister after minister was making statement that we have got, X number
Nuclear.
of, Y number of this thing. We not kept it for, showcasing. We are going to use it. They have all got India's name and blah, 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 blah. People who had nothing to do with defense are for talking about nukes. And I'm reminded of that old, I think he was Interior Minister of Pakistan, who was talking about Pawa kg nuclear head and half kg nuclear head. And, he said, I got various types from pav kg to half kg to 1 kg. So he doesn't even know how a nuclear asset is managed. And those are people who are coming and, trying to. So that tells you what the populace is also all about. They are accepting that kind of rhetoric and possibly still accepting that they are in safe hands. So as I look at it today, when I look at Pakistan, they are rattled, totally rattled. There is something which is going on. I hope it's not IW. I believe the Pakistani Prime Minister is hospitalized. So I don't know whether it's true or not, but then it is floating around in the social media that he's hospitalized. And he's not to be seen for the last couple of days also. So neither he's seen nor his so-called Chief of Army Staff is seen. Both have gone missing somewhere in the hiding, I guess. So they are suddenly, to my knowledge, they are currently regretting the kind of, possibly they did not calibrate the kind of action that happened. It was possibly meant to be a much smaller kind of incident, primarily to give Shriman Asif Munir a kind of, platform to establish himself in the turmoil he's facing inside Pakistan. But I guess something has gone out and it has gone beyond what they have, mandated for. So as it stands today, they are I'll say they are inside the septic tank, trying to find ways to come out of it. And it is high time we push them deep into it so that they never come out. Now coming over to the military aims. You must understand India is following a new doctrine called the DRS. I will not dwell more on it because it's in a domain that I can't share it here. But largely, most people, in social media talk about cold start and proactive. Those are things we did in the past. We are not looking at it anymore. So some people were there in the social media yesterday saying Pakistan is already mobilized. We are still waiting for what orders, etc., etc. We know the Indian Army and the Indian Armed Forces know what is to be done and at what levels things are in place. And people are already taking suitable actions at all levels, I can assure you that. And I have seen it as a chief of staff of an operational command as to how battle procedure moves. Whenever a crisis happens, how battle procedure rolls out, it is all in place. So just these kind of things which people are floating around in the media house, that needs to be curbed. Please have faith in the system that the Indian Armed Forces know what is supposed to be done and how it's supposed to be done. So let us look at options. And a couple of days back, and that is when I told General Shankar I need to come and speak to you, to speak on your show again. I saw people are playing war games on media. I will not do that, sir. I will not like to say X, Y, and Z. But let's analyze what we want to do. There are multiple things that have been mandated to the Indian Armed Forces. The first about it is maintain the sanctity of India's borders.
Territorial integrity.
Territorial integrity is the prime thing. So whatever you do, You cannot compromise on the territorial integrity. That is the first basic term of reference. And that has to be kept in mind. So before a commander plans anything, he decides what forces can he set aside to ensure that the basic concept of territorial integrity is not compromised. Yes, people will take risks at places, but then those risks will be far and few. They will be very calibrated and coordinated action to ensure that without upsetting the territorial integrity, we are able to achieve our aim. That is the first thing I'd like to say. Now, when you look at what happened after Uri, and this is in the open domain, so I can say in the period between, let's say, 2010 to 2014, there was a state, which General Shankar is also aware, we were not very comfortable as far as our, Asla was concerned. We were having huge deficiencies. And you all know there was so much things which were leaked out in social media, the chief writing. There was a problem to, during Uri time, we could not even think of going on an all-out offensive. We would have been restrained on it. So we went for something called a surgical strike, which, if for a layman, it's a series of tactical operation across a large front. But it is at the strategic level because they were coordinated to achieve a strategic aim. That is to destroy a set of terrorist
Launch
hideouts
pads.
and infrastructure in a coordinated manner and send a message not only to Pakistan but to the world that India is capable of executing very surgical ground level operations in depth and executed without any collaterals. So that was very clearly enunciated in that strike. It was beautifully done. And we stopped at that because at that stage, possibly escalating any further would have been a bit difficult for us. Not to say Pakistan was in any better state. I'm sure he could have also not in a position to escalate it anymore also. But that was the period when line of control was hot. So there were a lot amount of daily exchanges on the line of control anyway. So there was a continuous set of low-level escalation at tactical levels across the line of control. Come down to 2019 when Pulwama happened. And Pulwama happened, we could not do another surgical strike because what happened immediately after Pulwama was, and I was in Northern Command at that time, within 10 hours, every terrorist who was in those hideouts were taken out. And they were taken out into these areas like Balakot and all, which were in the hinterland. And the best part of it was we were in a position to locate them because we saw them moving out of these forward launch pads into the rear. Because they thought that possibly another surgical strike is coming. And this time we opted to use our long-range vector using the Mirage and the scalp ammunition of the Israeli origin. And we were able to again send a message that not only can we carry out a surgical strike in immediate depth, we can carry out very surgical pinpoint accuracy hits in hinterland, which is well in depth of your forward areas, and also extricate our troops in time. It was another way of communicating something to the world that India not only possesses kind of equipment, we also have the kind of minds which can, figure out this kind of an operation and execute it with finesse. And if somebody, it's kind of there in some manner in the open domain, you must read the kind of air activity which was simulated right across. I was there in Northern Command. We used to fly along the line of control for almost about 7 days. Continuous. We actually put him into a kind of a state that nothing is going to come. They are just flying in their own area. And one fine day, they just went in and knocked off and came back. I do regret that the swift retort was allowed to happen. But you must understand that in swift retort, the Pakis never actually crossed the line of control more than maybe about 5-10 kilometers. It was only when they turned from the Kashmir area back towards Sialkot that they did a little bit of intrusion into us. Otherwise, they were operating in their own airspace. So it was a very difficult way to counter that. And I must say, the value of the pilot who went after them, and I was there, and the company commander at one of our forward posts vouchers that he saw an F-16 go down along with the pilot going down in a parachute. So it is not that what we said was right, but then info warfare can be turned whichever way it is. Pakistan can keep telling their masses and say swift retort was a success because they managed to pull down one MiG-21 aircraft of ours. And unfortunately, our pilot had to land inside Pakistan. Unfortunately, again, I must mention it, had we known in the ground forces, had there been a little more knowledge, possibly we could have even gone in and extricated it. It was well within our reach. Anyway, those were days which went by. So when I say, okay, today, if you want to do another symbolic thing to, respond to your masses, you can do something very similar to it. You can do both of them. You can do 2 plus 1 more of them. These are symbolic events, primarily to tell your masses that, yes, he did this and we have done that to him. It is like he slapped me once and I slapped him 3 times. But say something which I read somewhere yesterday, which comes and stresses on what should be your, if you are going in for an action, you should ensure that the other guy also knows, and other guy can't hide it. Unfortunately, in both the surgical strike and the Balakot airstrikes, they were able to spin a story to their masses as if nothing happened. So unless and until you do that, you will never get his army to be discredited. And like General Shankar said, till the time that army is taken out, Pakistan will continue picking you with these pinpricks. So therefore, I feel this symbolic kind of a strike, I don't know, for all you know, we may still end up doing something like this, maybe on a scale much larger than the ones which we did last time. But if it has to be a symbolic kind of thing, maybe it may not meet the kind of requirement which the dime factor actually spells out for military. And the kind of status which Pakistan is in today, possibly the fruit is ripe to be eaten. And in that context, maybe a symbolic hit may not be the order of the day. That is what I feel. I am no one. There are bigger planners than me in the system. I'm sure they'll take the right decision. So so aim of this kind of a strike is you want to tell your masses that I have done, he came and hit, so I killed so many terrorists, and terrorist infrastructure has been taken out. And by and large, we have been able to create kind of damage which keeps our response to be the kind of response which the masses expect. That can be spun in, and that story can be capable enough to keep our country in a happy state, I'll say. Let's go a step further. Another thing which happened on 24th, the Pakistani response to our diplomatic initiatives were that we are walking out of the Shimla agreement. People have not realized, but there is a fine print to Shimla agreement. And the fine print is that Shimla agreement talks about the line of control. And it says that both countries will respect the sanctity of the line of control. So when Kargil happened, when US put pressure on Pakistan, they were told to go behind the line of control. So there was some kind of a semblance of sanctity of that line, which is not incidentally not there on ground for all of my civilian listeners and viewers today. It's a very arbitrary kind of a line which has to be imagined on ground. At places, the two posts are less than 50 feet or 50 meters apart. And they are possibly on the same hill feature also at times. So this line of control having gone, and today We claim POK to be an inseparable part of India's land. If tomorrow we expand our forward line, let's say 5-10 kilometers into POK in selected areas, it amounts to reclaiming our land. And in an international court or international law, we are not offending anybody. We have not created a kind of a skirmish which needs to have repercussions on the nation, because the only treaty where we could have been found as an offender is no longer valid. There is nothing which stops us from claiming our own land which has been illegally held by Pakistan. And to that effect, I can put on paper that if that is the aim, that we want to achieve some degree of supremacy on the erstwhile line of control and get on to areas, certain areas where we are currently on the receiving end because of being holding on to territory which is being dominated by Pakistan. If we are able to take him away from those areas, we will be much more stronger. And he may not be able to hold on to the line of control or the positions on the along the erstwhile line of control. And possibly that kind of a action will kind be of maybe the first step towards taking operations deeper inside POK. So this is a very limited kind of offensive, which is well within the domain of the ground forces, the tactical commanders. We have enough resources for it, and it can be executed at a short notice. We have our things in place. But it will be a large number of small, shallow objectives across the entire front from, say, Akhnur up to, let's say, Siachen base
Siachen.
camp, right across. And in that bargain, if we get a window, and this is where we can, take it to the next level. If we get a window, and arbitrarily, I'm not privy to any of these plans, so I can't say that. But let's say we get a window where you can push, let's say, to the doorsteps of Muzaffarabad. Why not? And if you have the troops in the window, nobody stops you from taking it to the ultimate end, and possibly that can be the catalyst to reintegrate POK back into India, which is one of the stated aim of this current government. And the Indian Parliament has passed this as a declaration saying that the POK is an inseparable part of India. So that is one of the options, and the aim here could be initially to get a foothold across erstwhile line of control, then slowly push forward till where we can, and then provided there is an opportunity, you can, go for the jugular and get some tangible gains which can create a kind of instability in POK, and thereafter the whole POK actually crumbles and comes back to us. It has happened in many occasions in history, can be done, and it is well within our reach, well within our capacities. Here, in these two options, when I mentioned the war is, or the operations are controlled, we don't want to go for all-out war, yet the kind of gains we gain is going to create a huge amount of discredit to the enemy's army. The chief of army staff, when he says, Kashmir hamari jugular vein hai, and you cut it, you have actually knocked him off. So this is something we can do without putting the entire country to war, well limited, focused, and achieve our aims, and if possible, take it to the aim plus. Only rider here is, on our northern front, for the last 3-4 years, you have been in a state of, engagement. Though last 5-6 months we have had disengagement, but we are still not de-escalated the situation. When I say de-escalated, means the troops we put there have not been pulled back. So there will be a little strain on kind of resources. We may have to readjust some of our troops in the hinterland and make them available. There are, again, like I said, there are ways and means, there are multiple options. able to muster the kind of forces which are required to execute this kind of an operation. Very much within our possibility. Now come down to the third thing, which I'll rather go to the fourth thing first and then come back to the third thing. Today everybody wants Pakistan to be balkanized. Even in the last interaction with this group, I was mentioning this. Breaking up of a country needs a lot of effort. And today and for the last 10 to 15 years, Pakistan has been drained out of his military resources because he's been forced to put a very large amount of his, prime troops in this Western Front. He has to keep them there to keep these places under control. Ever since, I think, 2014, when that APS accident happened in Peshawar, since then, things have been bad only. He is almost 4 to 5 divisions worth is locked over there. I don't think he has the capability to bring it out, though somewhere in social media things are coming that he is pulling out. But I don't think those things are actually correct as it stands. He is possibly going to hold on to that part because otherwise those things are gone. In that context, if you carry out, let's say, a mobilization like Op Parakram, you bring your army, you put the threat that if you don't counter me, I will get in. And I will get in not only in J&K, I will get in Punjab, I will get in Rajasthan, I will even get in the creek. Threaten them right across the front, including your navy, including possibly even amphibious forces. If you can muster everything together, put a threat to him, I feel he'll be forced to pull out this chunk of forces which he's kept on his Western Front to counter you, mirror the kind of deployment you do. In that context, there could be a case of vacuum both in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan. If the situation is such that moment you remove the whistle from the pressure cooker, if this is going to open up, for all you know, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa may be the first one going because the Taliban are not going to let go of it. I'm very sure Balochistan may be dry of troops, but there's enough lying on the north of the Durand line. And once Khyber Pakhtunkhwa goes, then it is a domino effect. The northern areas will go, POK will go, and accordingly at some time Balochistan will go. Pakistan will balkanize even without you doing anything. I'm not saying that it can't be just because you are there. To make your intentions credible, you may have to carry out some degree of operations at some levels. These are tricky things because it is a long drawn kind of a process. It may take maybe 1 or 2 campaign seasons to achieve the kind of end state, which is going to be a huge drain on our economy also. So the nation should be prepared to look at 5-10 years of pullback as far as its economy growth is concerned. And possibly it will help in the sense if your problem areas which is eating into you as termites is removed, these 5-10 years may be recovered in, let's say, next 5 years. So that is something which I'm sure the calculations must be going around the people sitting in South Block, working out as to what is amount of effort that you can put in. The next option or the third option which comes out is possibly in the current scheme of things, when I look at it, while J&K there is scope, there is still scope in the southern desert areas of Pakistan. As far as Punjab, whether it's North Punjab or South Punjab is concerned, he is pretty strong there, and it will take a long amount of effort to dislodge him there. But if you are able to make ingress in 2 fronts, that is to the north in the J&K and to the south in the desert, you will be able to dislocate him from 2 sides, pull him out, and thereby create a kind of a scenario where his army doesn't know which side to go to, which side to address, because the population centers are all down south, his value territory is all down north. So he doesn't know where to go. It's like opening up a can. You can just open him out. The risk here is this is where his nuclear red lines are. The world order will not want a nuclear war because it can escalate from subcontinent to Middle East to Russia to China across, and possibly it becomes a kind of a holocaust. So that is where we have to calibrate to see how much we can stretch this rubber band. We should ensure that this rubber band stretches but doesn't snap. We should be able to identify those red lines very clearly and point or take your forces to that level, which ends up in discrediting the enemy's armed forces. The day his army is, destroyed or its relevance is destroyed, by and large, Pakistan will come to heels. And I don't need to see a disintegrated Pakistan there. There will be a very weak Pakistan without the fangs. You remove the fangs and you make them a normal state. I guess the answer lies between option 2 and option 3. It has to be something where your end state should be something which you have as a nation asked for, which means you said we want Gilgit-Baltistan and POK to be reintegrated to us. That can be achieved by going offensive in the north and ensure that your borders are, you have enough force to hold your borders for any counter which he might like to do in the south. So like I said in the beginning, our first mandate is to ensure that the territorial integrity of the nation is not compromised. All this, while we are doing all this, we have to also ensure that our friend in the north is fixed where he is and is not able to do anything, which means, by and large, the kind of posture that we have kept in the north stays. So when I put all these things together, the operation which will be conducted will be a focused operation. It will be based on an end state. It will be based on a very definite aim. And it will have very clear lines of operations. There will be very clear decision points. There will be very clear mandate given to the people as to how much and how far will they go. So therefore, I am a little skeptical when somebody in the media comes and says the Prime Minister has told the armed forces that you have a free hand and do whatever you want to do. I'm sure the Prime Minister would have laid down these parameters to the armed forces.
No. Free hand is to the extent. The free hand is to the extent of what they have planned.
Exactly. The point is, today, the social media things are going around that
Someone has said that. Even here, someone has said, "Oh, breaking news and all that." There's no breaking news. Nothing is breaking. We all know, everyone, whenever we have done operations, our seniors say, you have a free hand to do what you want to do. But first tell me your plan. What is your plan all about? You tell your plan, you explain your plan. Everyone is convinced that your plan is good. Then you get a free hand to do what you want to do. So let's not be this thing. At the same time, like what General Harimohan said, we have to go in with clear objectives. What do you want to do? You want to just take revenge on this and say, I've done this, or you want to break Pakistan ultimately, or you want to discredit his army. You have to be very clear as to how you want to do. I'll give you one conundrum which for everyone must understand. Pakistan army is a very strange army. This is the only army which has been defeated every time. It has been defeated, discredited, everything every time. But in the past 70 years, despite all this, it has come out stronger politically. If whatever you do enables Pakistan army to come up stronger politically, and then the thing with Pakistan army, which all of us must realize is, he's got nothing to lose. Jo kho gaya already. He's got nothing to lose. So that is why he behaves in this maverick manner. And he now knows, he very clearly knows, it doesn't matter if I lose a war, I'll win my political battle. That is a conundrum which you have to break. If you don't break that conundrum, whatever you do is a waste of time. And that conundrum is only broken if the army is broken or Pakistan is broken. And whatever it takes, and this is not going to be an easy affair. And more than direct methods, my view is indirect methods work. Indirect methods work better, and we should have patience. Yeah, I'm with what General Harimohan said and what our Prime Minister also said. You do something, just show that you've done something. But the other actions which have been taken so far, diplomatic actions, economic actions, have more value. If you keep it pressed, it is like pressing a chap's throat and not letting him breathe. He'll die, right? Help Baluchistan out. Help. After all, one team of us was already sitting in Afghanistan. Use them. You know, put them across all over. Gone are the days. This gray zone has to be all around Pakistan. And in the gray zone in which he is living all around 360 degrees, you shine a light through his nut or his eyes and do a focused operation and get out. And let everything, then go. And that's the art. Let us see if that happens or not. I'd like your views on this, and then we'll take comments, questions.
Sir, I agree with
Sorry.
you. Can't agree with you more. The point is, I would like to qualify a couple of statements, sir. 71, while in the East Pakistan we had huge gains. Unfortunately, our gains on the West were very limited. It was only in the desert sector we made gains. We lost Cham, and that was portrayed as a huge victory by the Pakistan army to its masses, that we have won back Cham, which was lost by us in 1965. They ensured that there was territorial integrity in Punjab in 1971. In the Shakargarh Bulge, we couldn't go beyond a certain distance. By and large, if you look at it, the fertile valley was not touched. And the areas where we went was possibly barren land. Let's say Cholistan Desert, Chor, Naya Chor, those areas. He survived. In Kargil, he survived because he came back saying that I went in with Mujahideens. I was about to cut off Siachen. It was my prime minister who ran to America and he says, I don't want to fight a war. So he put the entire blame of his loss onto his political cousin and he became a hero again. So both Ziaul Haq and Parvez Musharraf, if you look at those two gentlemen who had extended tenures as chiefs and the chief martial law administrators along with it, they were benefited by transferring the blame onto the political masters that their army was very good, but unfortunately they were not allowed to play their games. That needs to be cut off. This is the right time because politically they are shattered as it stands. This
Yeah.
current guy has got no value.
So that's the point which we have to see, and we'll see how it plays out. You know, there are some people who say, no, no, you're talking of Vajpayee. Some comment has come, oh, you have to take off Vajpayee. You talk like a look. Doesn't matter. Vajpayee was a politician, but when he spoke, he was a prime minister of the nation. He was not a politician, and he spoke like a prime minister. And if you anyone who doesn't understand the value of what he spoke should not be on this channel. Let me be very clear. Okay, it's not a joke. You guys, many of you have not seen battle. When you go into battle, you will understand the value of what that prime minister spoke. I have very high regard for him. So I would not like any one of you to talk ill of him. For that matter, any prime minister. Okay, we'll take a few questions which are this thing, and then yeah.